A long time ago, in a French kingdom, an arrogant and selfish prince lived in a castle with his royal subjects. One night, an old woman entered his castle and offered the prince a rose in exchange for shelter from the cold. The prince, along with his subjects, laughed at the woman. Even after she pleaded with him, the prince turned her away. Soon afterward, the old woman transformed into a beautiful enchantress. The prince, frightened, begs for forgiveness, but the enchantress saw there was no love in his heart. As punishment, she turned the prince into a hideous beast and transformed all his subjects into household objects. Before her departure, the enchantress gave the prince, who is now a beast, a rose. She said that if the beast can earn the love of another person before the last petal falls, the spell will be broken. Otherwise, he will forever remain a beast. Some years later, in a small village, a young woman named Belle lives alone with her father. She is courted by a proud hunter and former war captain, Gaston. One day, he rides into town with his subordinate and finds Belle leaving a bookshop. Gaston attempts to invite her for dinner, but she turns him down. Belle returns home to her father, Maurice, a music box maker. Maurice sets to travel to another town to sell his music boxes, and Belle asks him to bring back a rose like he always do. Maurice rides through the forest with his horse, Philippe, at night, and a pack of wolves attacks him. He flees with Philippe towards a snowy path, and they pass through a gate that leads them into a castle. Maurice enters the castle and walks into the dining hall. He sits down, but is startled when a teacup moves toward him and speaks to him. Maurice runs out of the castle in fright and rides away on Philippe until he passes through a garden and spots a rose. He tries to pick one for Belle, but he is found by the beast, who calls Maurice a thief and takes him as his prisoner. Back in the village, Philippe returns without Maurice, and Belle knows that something bad must have happened to him. She tells Philippe to take her to Maurice, and he takes her to the castle. After wandering the halls of the castle, she finds Maurice in the dungeon, and he warns her to turn back for fear of her encountering the beast. Too late, and the beast appears. Belle meets him and is stunned by his appearance. The beast says Maurice is a thief for taking a rose from his garden and must serve for life in the dungeon. But Belle offers to take his place. Despite Maurice's objection, the beast agrees to the exchange, and he lets Maurice go. Belle meets Lumiere and Cogsworth, despite initially being freaked out by them. Lumiere was the castle footman, and Cogsworth was the castle majordomo. Lumiere guides Belle out of the dungeon and into a room in the east wing, warning her never to go into the west wing. Gaston is in a tavern lamenting over Belle's rejection with his subordinate LeFou. Not long after, Maurice enters and starts raving about the beast and how he's taken Belle as his prisoner. The other villagers laugh at his claims, but Gaston offers his help to Maurice, mainly to get Belle to marry him. Back at the castle, the beast tries to get Belle to join him for dinner, but he is too irrational as he bangs on her bedroom door. Belle refuses to join the beast as she is offended by his behavior. The beast insults his servants and storms off in anger. And we see the rose drop another petal, and as a result, the castle starts to crumble. Mrs. Potts, the castle head housekeeper, who is now a teapot, later comes to see Belle and she tries to comfort her. Afterward, Belle wanders into the west wing. There, she finds a rose encased in a jar. Before she could touch it, however, the beast arrives and frightens her, screaming at her to get out. Belle rides on Philip into the forest. While in the forest, she is attacked by a pack of wolves. Belle tries to fight them off until the beast arrives and fights them himself. He roars, scaring them away. He immediately collapses as he is badly injured. Belle, seeing him like this, helps the beast onto Philippe as they ride back to the castle. While at the castle, Belle nurses the beast's wound, even though he constantly complains about the pain. After nursing his wounds, she lets him rest. Mrs. Potts explains to Belle that the beast was not always so unkind since they have known him his entire life. She explains that he became like this after his mother died and his father raised him into cruelty. When Belle asks about the rose in his room, the servants explained that the prince and everyone in the castle will remain the way they are forever if the last petal falls without him finding someone to love and to love him back. Maurice leads Gaston and Lefou into the forest as they try to find the castle. Gaston and Lefou just think Maurice is crazy, and this leads to a fallout between Gaston and Maurice. Gaston reveals he is only helping Maurice so he would agree to his union with Belle. Maurice, repulsed by Gaston's behavior, makes it clear that he will never allow Gaston to marry Belle. Gaston knocks out Maurice and ties him to a tree. Back at the castle, the Beast is awake and he brings Belle to see his very large library. She becomes overwhelmed with joy when he tells her the library belongs to her from now on. Over time, Belle eventually warms up to the Beast as he shows his kinder and more gentle side. The Beast later shows Belle a magical book that allows anyone to travel anywhere in the world if they can imagine it. Belle places her hand on the book, and they are transported to an old house in Paris. It was once home to Maurice and his wife when Belle was a baby. The Beast finds a doctor's mask at the house and realizes that Belle's mother was killed by a plague. A flashback shows Maurice tending to his wife. As she is dying, she tells him to protect Belle, and all that was left behind was a glass rose, which Belle finds. Back at the forest, Maurice is saved by a beggar named Agathe. Gaston and Lefou return to the village and they are surprised to find Maurice sitting in the tavern. Maurice tells the villagers that Gaston left him in the forest to die. The villagers refuse to believe Maurice, and Gaston accuses Maurice of being a delusional madman, as he also once said that Belle was imprisoned by a beast, and so, he orders Maurice be taken to an asylum. Back at the castle, the Beast invites Belle to have a dance with him in the ballroom. Belle is dressed in a beautiful gown, while Lumiere and the others try to dress up the Beast elegantly. The two then meet on the staircase and walk into the ballroom. Belle and the Beast share a romantic dance. Afterwards, the Beast asks Belle if she would be happy in the castle, but she asks if anyone can be happy if they are not truly free. He knows she misses her father, and so he lets her go but gives her the magic mirror so she can see him whenever she pleases. The Beast climbs his tower in despair as Belle rides away on Philippe, though he knows now that he truly does love her. Gaston has Maurice taken away to an asylum but gives him one more chance to redeem himself if he gives Gaston his blessing to marry Belle. Maurice still refuses, so Gaston sends him away. Belle arrives just in the nick of time to stop the carriage from riding off. She shows the villagers the magic mirror to prove the Beast's existence and to show her father is not delusional. Gaston, seeing this, orders Belle to be locked up in the carriage with Maurice as he accuses her of siding with the Beast. And he gathers the villagers to go after the Beast. The castle servants see the villagers making their way to the castle. They try their best to hold the door closed, but the villagers start to break it down. Cogsworth goes to warn the Beast, but he is too depressed to care about what happens. Chaos ensues as the castle servants engage the villagers in an intense battle. After a long and what can only be described as the battle of the century, the villagers begin to run away in terror as the castle servants seem too overwhelming for them. Back at the village, in the carriage, Belle reveals the glass rose to Maurice and tells him she knows the truth about what happened to her mother. Maurice says he only wanted to protect her, which Belle understands. She emphasizes her need to escape and help the Beast, and so, Maurice, using her hairpin, picks the lock with it. They break out of the carriage, and Belle rides Philippe back to the castle. Gaston makes his way up to the tower and finds the Beast standing outside the window. He shoots the Beast in the back, causing him to fall onto a lower roof. Gaston goes after him and wants the Beast to fight back, but he doesn't. Belle returns to the castle, and this rejuvenates the Beast as he defends himself against Gaston and declares he is not a beast. He holds Gaston over a ledge as Gaston begs for mercy, and he spares his life. The Beast leaps to the next tower where he sees Belle, only for Gaston to shoot him again. Bad luck for Gaston as the bridge he is standing on crumbles, and he falls to his death. The Beast is severely wounded, and eventually dies as Belle watches over him. Belle cries over his death as she confesses she loves him. Agathe enters the room and hears Belle. It turns out Agathe is actually the enchantress in disguise, and she restores the rose, thus breaking the spell. The Beast transforms back into his human self. Belle, overwhelmed with happiness, rushes to him and they share their first kiss. A celebration is held in the ballroom with all the castle servants, now returned to their human form, and the villagers. Belle and the prince share a dance, and they lived happily ever after.